Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 215. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Neither continent nor ocean will keep me away. My resolve to record unleashed, I dare say. My vacation and food have been quite delish. Traveling Italy and spreading whatnot and whatish, so says the sensei of the whatnot Segulin and the Duke of You-Know. How are you, buddy?
Oh, bueno noche. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I am here in a small town outside of Vicenza, Italy, my brother's house, and just recording. And it's kind of neat that we're doing this cross ocean type of recording.
We're adding it to our list.
I know. You've been in hospitals, airports, now in a foreign country.
Hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's a quick kind of off-the-cuff one that we did when Jim was in Italy. The three books that we chose for this particular episode, Power Girl number 13, Legion of the Superheroes number 2, and Green Lantern Corps number 49, were three books that Jim happened to have with him on his trip. So that really drove our decision as far as, hey, it's kind of a no-brainer what books we're going to talk about. But this is kind of loose, off-the-cuff, and I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. It's kind of a special one-off piece. A little bit shorter than our usual episodes, but hope you guys enjoy Jim from Italy. Listener voicemails will be back in our next episode, so please continue to send those in. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, you can pick up Power Girl number 16, written by Judd Winnick, art and cover by Sammy Basiri. Someone close to Karen Starr has figured out that she's the one and only Power Girl. An unusual alliance is born as this new team tries to uncover who ruined Power Girl's company and sent her life into a tailspin. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79, and that's DCBService.com, your pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, if you haven't been reading Power Girl, they have the first 6 issues in the Power Girl A New Beginning trade paperback. This is written by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti with art by Amanda Connor. It's regularly $17.99, 37% off, only $11.33, and that's a great deal for the first 6 issues of this series. It's a wonderful, fun series. If you haven't read Power Girl before, it's really accessible to brand new readers, so definitely check out this series. I'm a big fan of it. I've been enjoying it, and it's really great to see that continuing with the current creative team. And don't forget at InStockTrades.com, orders over $50 get you free shipping. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in depth in the plotline, story, twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we go over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
We've still been using that one where you go, enjoy! Because that's the one that I have readily available, so that one's been running for 3 weeks now.
I was going to do an Italian version, but truth be told, I am absolutely abysmal with the language. I'm very fortunate that the Italian people are very understanding and friendly towards Americans, that they just kind of give me that, nice try, son. Just point to what you want. And I do a lot of this and this, please. Thank you.
Is your family fluent at all, or?
My brother and his wife are getting pretty good at it. Their one little girl, is just rattling it off, and we're like, okay, honey, you got to say that in English. I have no idea what you just said.
Can she translate?
No, because she's only 2.
Oh, wait. So the 2-year-old's rattling it off.
Better than I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really funny.
Carter Hall, scientific genius from a far-off world, flies into action as Hawkman.
As we're kicking off in this recording, Jim's actually got an audience in Italy watching him record.
Yeah, my dad stayed awake because he wanted to see me do my thing, but it's just sitting. He's getting to one half of the recording, so he won't even hear all the nasty things Sean is saying about him. Hey, Sean, that is my father. I'd appreciate it if you didn't say that.
On that note, let's talk Legion of the Superheroes number 2.
Legion of Superheroes.
Jim, this is the second issue of the series. It's funny. I've had to start looking up some of the characters in it. Like Tyrock was in this one. I had no clue who Tyrock was. Were you finding that was something that was making you more interested in the series, seeing some new characters pop up?
Oh, no, definitely that was something cool. And as I said, Legion is really pulling me in. well, Legion of Superheroes instead of just saying Legion, because there is the Legion series. That's also pretty cool. But yeah, the Legion of Superheroes are really pulling me in. And when I saw the guy, I jumped down like, okay, is this somebody new? Okay, yeah, all right. And I'm digging that about the Legion. It's making me want to go back, get some, trades, some back issues, some various whatnot. That is Legion of Superheroes, and start seeing where these people are coming from. Read more about this particular Legion, because this isn't my quote unquote Legion, but I understand them enough now that I'm enjoying the story.
I'm with you 100%. I think I'm glad that Levitz isn't just pulling from the mainstays. This is actually Levitz's first time writing this character, which I didn't realize until I was looking on Wikipedia just to get some kind of a background on who the character was, because I didn't know him. When I saw his original costume, I recognized him. I've seen him before. I couldn't tell you much about the character at all. I guess he appeared in Superboy number 216 in April 1976. He was created by Cary Bates, and Mike Grell was the artist. I guess for years they prevented Jim Shooter from introducing black characters into the Legion in the 60s. And the problem with this character, Tyrock, when they introduced him, is they explained that the reason why there'd never been a black Legionnaire was that all of them had gone to live on an island. And this actually, for the artist Mike Grell, I guess this was a major sore spot because of the fact that, that's a very racist way of handling the situation. And so Mike Grell drew this character as very silly and gave him like this Elvis-like outfit and stuff like that, so he looked like a total goofball because they really didn't care for the character. So it's interesting to see. I love the way Levitz handled him because he modernized him a bit. The artist did as well, and this whole new look of his, he's actually really impressive. His powers are this screaming, based on it's reality warping screams. So I guess unlike what like Black Canary does, for example, he can adjust his screams to do different things. I guess he can actually fly based on different kinds of screams that he uses. Cool power, and I'm actually interested in the character. I don't know a whole lot about the character's history, though. If any of our listeners are big Legionnaire fans and you've read a lot of Tyrock and you want to tell us a little bit more about the character, I'd love more about him, because I'm really pulling what I'm saying here off of Wikipedia. I visually remember the character, but I don't know much of anything about him. And I was fascinated by the trouble that they had early on getting African-American characters into comics. It's interesting to see the difficulties they had early on, whereas today we aren't faced with that. Like John Stewart's just another character with a costume who just happens to be black. It seems like he's really going to make this a real positive, real strong character who just happens to be another Legionnaire, and I love that.
Oh, definitely. And it's funny, I like how you mentioned with it's not just a straight sonic scream like a Black Canary has, because he's in outer space. If it was just a straight sonic scream, it wouldn't work. Sound doesn't travel in space. So that's kind of a nice little modification to it, so it actually makes sense why he's there.
I like the use of his internal dialogue, too, to get to know him. We got into his head versus the other characters talking about him. That added to me a sense of a human aspect to him, where I got to know personality, what drove him. And I like that, we got to see that he's, not just a drone. He's got his own thoughts about the Legion. He's got his own agreements and disagreements with what they're doing on the team, just like all the other characters do. The new costume look, I don't know if that's new to this series. I'm guessing it is because I didn't see any reference to it. But whether it is or it isn't, it looks really cool. Do you remember seeing this character anywhere before? Was he in any of the Legion of Three Worlds stuff or things like that?
Not that I remember.
I don't remember him either. If he was a background character, and I'm glad to see him being brought to the forefront because he's a cool-looking character. Looks like he belongs on the team. Mon-El now. This was interesting. We see Mon-El back. It's clear that this is not the Mon-El that we just saw in the Superman books. I mean, it is, but this is the Mon-El who's been with the Legion all these years, who went through that stuff maybe in his youth, but he's with the Legionnaire right now with their history. And relationship breakup with Shadowlass. I really like the fact that with the size of this team and the amount of members, both male and female, that there are relationships that come and go. It feels very real in this group, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any tension between the two characters. I'm assuming there's going to be. That's something I've always liked about the Legion, is the fact that there is relationship drama inside the team.
It was actually one of the things that kind of I want to say, turned me off a little bit off of the Legion until I started really reading multiple stories and seeing how they played on it, how they used just the emotional drama kind of deal to offset, what was the action going on. So it's that element that pulls you into who they are, and it's kind of removes that, that little doubt that you have that you're reading a story. It's something now that I wouldn't have changed, for the world, in a Legion superhero story. But when I initially read it, it was something that just didn't click right with me.
The destruction of Titan, I really like that wasn't done for just shock value, that there is a storytelling purpose to this. It just makes a whole lot of sense to me. We see them dealing with the fact that they've got to clear this space up. The dialogue that we're seeing between Ultra Boy and Mon-El really is happening amidst the two of them, and this is something I clearly remember these two teaming up an awful lot because of their power levels, doing things like this, cleanup crew, the heavy hitting stuff that other members wouldn't be as suited to. And I really like that aspect of the Legion where they have little squads that are kind of suited to certain kinds of tasks, and that these two guys are really best friends or really close friends because of that. And the banner shows that. These are conversations you and I would have. Yeah. And that's something that I found really comforting about the whole thing. They feel just a little bit more real because of that. This leads to this whole thing with Titan, leads to us eventually seeing the return of Saturn Queen, who obviously she's come back to see what's happened to her home world and to get some info on. I love the info from Brainiac. Like, rather than just killing him right there, let's get into his head and see what I can use to really mess around. Which adds a little kind of an evil twist to her. It's not enough to just kill them. It's like, what can I do to really mess with their world? And I kind of like that slimy aspect about her.
It's a great villain. You think about it, just the power levels to, jump into the mind and do all that. The mind control villain is one of those really dangerous, villains you go with. And you got this one who, she's like, her society, kind of stepped away from doing that kind of stuff. Well, she's a villain. She's going to embrace it, saying, what are you ignoring this power for? This is something we should be exploiting and taking advantage of. And I like seeing just how she's going. She's not just doing a mad rush to try to conquer the universe. No, she's going to get a little intel. Then let's get some muscle going. Then let's take it apart one at a piece at a time. Nice planning, good, solid villain.
And showing why she's an outcast from her world. We got to see that great setup in issue 1. That's one thing I really like about this series is whatever your experience is with the Legions, you really get a kind of an aspect of who these characters are. They're really well developed within this series that we're reading right now. We got to see Saturn Girl's whole world laid out before us. Now that we see Saturn Queen, it actually makes more sense, her MO, and why she isn't with her people, and why she's been cast out of her society, basically, or choose to leave it however you want to. She's disenfranchised. Everyone to take a look at it. It really is because of the fact that they've got such strict codes, and that all matters because of issue 1. This has been a really great launch to a series that has kept in mind that there's longtime readers who are going to really want a part of this, but then there's also newer readers like you and even me to a certain extent. I've read a lot of Legion, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere near the expert that a lot of longtime Legionnaire fans are going to be with this type of thing. I love that. I love that this book is something that kind of caters to everybody. Speaking of disenfranchised or kind of a outcast of the group, Brainiac, I love that his MO and the way that he carries himself kind of makes him distance from the rest of the team as well. They aren't afraid to make the occasional backhanded comment when it comes to talking to Brainiac.
I still like the character, but there's just something smarmy about him that I think I'd probably be one of the Legionnaires who make the backhanded comments to him, and just do we really need him around? Can't we get somebody else?
It is, and that going back to Tyrock now, mission's everything I don't like about being a Legionnaire. Brainy wanting space lanes clear instead of worrying about the refugees from Titan. Almost 10,000 folks dumped on Earth where the xenophobes are looking for an excuse to take over again and put Earthman back in the pilot's seat. Bet I'm more comfortable in this trans suit than the Titanians are in the camp. And he's like all about the people, which I can see his point. And I love that there's philosophical differences. These are people that all come from different worlds. He's Earth-based, so his mind is looking at the people of Earth, and how is this going to affect the people from Titan and also the people of Earth? That's going to be really hard being from Earth and seeing that your planet is reacting this way on such a level like this to people, and like having to face that and say, I'm almost embarrassed about my people on Earth. You'd have to be at that point. I would be about my race if we were in this type of situation. And that's one of the cool things that it's very deep. It also, for the Legion we see in this issue, it affects the way that they have to deal with situations as they arise. They can't send all of the Legionnaires in to deal with situations that they want to. They have to be very tactful about the situation. Which ones are going to be less likely to cause a further riot? Mm-hmm. Which was something that I liked as well. I liked the strategy aspect that we see from the team. That if you send Chameleon Boy, for example, into a situation where there's a riot going on Earth, with the way that xenophobia currently is, that may just escalate it further. And we actually see that the concerns were very true in that particular case.
Yeah, it's funny because I love how this is continuing building on that Legion of Three Worlds, where that whole the Superman crisis and just everything off of that whole Earthman thing. I'm so glad that this just is building off of it. It wasn't just to say, yes, this is where we're starting off point is one thing, but to take that as the intro story, then go on into this, with this whole thing with the Durlans and the Durlan forces coming in, and just, I'm really just like going, wow, this is kind of neat. I'm digging just seeing this all unfold.
Well, it is about them trying to solidify their place again as a force of good. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting with this team because politics are such an important part of what they do. If they can't, not only if they can't get along on Earth, which is a base of operations, but with the rest of the home worlds that are out there, it decreases their effectiveness, their ability to operate. And it's going to be interesting to see, how that continues to play out. I really liked in the Mark Waid series, straight on through with Tony Bedard and Jim Shooter and people like that who worked on that book, the big key to that series was politics. Played heavily into this, and I'm glad to see that that's something. I know it's something that's always been a part of the Legion, but I'm glad to see that it's a strong part of this as the status quo changes over time. I'm assuming they're going to find a way to gradually, if not work past this, to ease some of the tensions or to come to more agreements. I'm going to be curious to see how all that plays out, because that's something that I really enjoy about the series, because it gives it a different flavor, because I like seeing what the future society is like, because it's so different than ours that I'm eating that up. And I'm going to be curious to see more of the worlds that are out there.
You're saying how different it is. Yeah, it's technically technologically different, but it's still the same people. Mm-hmm. We still have the same xenophobic type of attitude towards people that are different than us. We not even talking just the racial differences that we've had, throughout our history. Look at just current present day with anybody who remotely looks Arabic is immediately a terrorist. Whether the person isn't even from that region. It may be Indian, from India, or even from a completely different country and nothing associated with it. They just happen to have darker skin and a long beard. Oh my God, they must be a terrorist kind of deal. So we still have these type of thoughts, and this type of attitude that we have nowadays. We're seeing it in the future. So it's kind of curious. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
I just saw Toy Story 3 with my wife last night, and Pixar always has these shorts that go in the beginning of it, and the one this time had two characters that were blobs, and each of the blobs on the inside of them mirrored what their day was like. But one was like a different time zone, if that makes sense. So the one blob inside of him, you were seeing daytime scenes inside his stomach that were mirroring things like being refreshed. So you'd see a fresh scene in the woods. Then it would, when he was in a party mood, you would see a party in his stomach, but it was all daytime sequences because he was up and around and living his day. Well, he encountered another blob who was from a different time zone, so to speak, who had a nighttime scene going on at the same time. And the two of them were having trouble with jealousy issues over what was going on in one versus the other. But it was all about differences. The whole theme and premise of the whole thing was learning how to deal with differences. And the fact that we fear the unknown, we fear what is different, but if we would just relax our viewpoints, and give new things a chance, it enhances us in some way. And that was the moral message of the whole thing. I'm not going to go in and tell the whole short, but the moral message of the whole thing was to open your eyes to new things. It ties into this because I think great science fiction mirrors society, where it will touch on some of the issues that we have a hard time as people facing and dealing with and talking about. And I love the fact that when you get into things like Legion of the Superheroes, it's not afraid to get in your face and say, hey, this is what's screwy about society, and look what happens in this world. And that's something that I think it's really smart writing. It's something that metaphorically can connect to a lot of different things, because you were just rattling off a whole bunch of different situations that this could connect to, and we could keep going on with that. That's something where, because it's a metaphor, you can connect it to a whole bunch of things and hopefully better yourself from that. That's something that I've always enjoyed about comics, and in this case, it's something that I think is just a strength of the Legion. It gets in your face and touches on those touchy issues in a way that a comic can get away with. And I think it's just brilliant. And it's another one where I totally echo rereading books, because when I read this issue the second time through, I got more of that out of it the second time through, because of, like this Gates character. He, right now, is having issues because of the fact that enough I get used as a sentient starship. Now everyone's a critic, too. And then it goes later to say, sounds as false as the promises you're bringing in from EarthGov, Fev. You're seeing here that these races that aren't Earth-based races have a bitterness, a severe bitterness to EarthGov, and right now are just ornery in general and feeling outcast. That outcast theme seems to be very prevalent throughout this series right now. Everyone's feeling very much like an outcast when it comes to Earth, when it comes to, their role and things like that. And that's something that I think we've all felt like outcasts in our life, and I think it's something that makes these characters very relatable. Or if we haven't ourselves felt like outcasts, we know people that have felt like outcasts. It really is just an interesting message, and it's really cool. I liked this character of Gates, though. I love another character who I didn't know who the heck Gates was, but it was another character I thought was pretty cool to see, this ornery little teleportation machine. That it's just another interesting character that adds to the mix here. Plus, we got to see Dream Girl and Dawnstar, who are two characters. Now, they are characters who I'm very familiar with. Seeing them, that was a nice balance here.
With the new and the old, kind of the nice team mix-ups. I think that's going to be one of the strengths, or appears to be one of when you get this large team like this, breaking these down, you got this fire mission, this team, going like kind of deals, and I'm liking that.
Earthman. It's a very interesting character. He's one of those characters. Do you see him being a Guy Gardner, where we're going to see that, maybe deep down he's actually going to turn out to get it, quote unquote get it, and be a part of this team? Or is what we're seeing with him using the Green Lantern ring to gain more and more freedom, are we going to see him then maybe turn on the Legion? Or is it going to be somewhere in the middle? Where do you see it being? Do you have any predictions on this character? Because he's an ornery so-and-so.
Yeah, part of me is thinking I'm kind of like a Magog type of deal, where he's got his own way of how he wants to handle it, but it could possibly be he may have good intentions, or the other side, I see him just as being never really getting into what the line and what is the Legion story arc and who the Legion are, and just ended up being a villain of them. I don't see him being the Guy Gardner gruff kind of, edge hero, but he's still a hero. Just because it's, I don't know. See, Guy has a lot of bravado and a lot of confidence, and just that, booing machismo kind of deal. Not really. Earthman's is a jerk, and he's not a nice guy, and he's got a lot of power. He's right now kind of helping, kind of doing the right thing, but he's always looking for a way to get around it. He seems like the villain who is stuck on a hero team until he can figure out his way out. I don't see Earthman ending well unless we get some significant event and one of those life-changing events for him.
I could see it going the way you're saying, but here's some of the things. When we kick off with him, you see him looking at the picture of R.J. Brand, going, disgusting. celebrating that Durland brand, passing as a human all those years. The whole Legion is founded on deceit. Even giving me a flight ring, booby-trapped, so I can't use my powers without permission. No reason not to use alien technology against aliens. And it's interesting to see, I guess what I'm wondering is, will he, over his time with the Legion, begin to see that maybe it's not as much about deception as he thinks? They really are trying to do some good, and what they're doing is good for Earth. Will that maybe soften him? I don't know. And actually, everything you were saying, I could totally see happening. So it's not an issue of me disputing you as much as me wondering. I think that's what I find the character interesting, is I see multiple possibilities with him. And it's too soon to say. I did like the bits where we got to see him behaving on behalf of the team. But see, to me, that either looks like we're eventually going to see him gradually soften where he honors his promises and becomes more part of the team, or he's doing that to get more and more confidence from team members and eventually use that infiltration as a way to completely Shanghai him down the road. I don't know.
Well, the one thing I really wonder is what's going to happen when he does charge up his ring, when he does actually power up the Green Lantern ring, and is there going to be something with the core that helps him along and helps him be a better hero? Putting the most powerful weapon on the hand of a very loose cannon right now, and I go, he's beyond Guy Gardner, loose cannon.
Oh, sure.
It's like, I say Magog is a great, compare. I've been thinking him on the lines of Magog, but even a little bit more extreme than Magog. Say what you will about the guy, he didn't really, he didn't have the xenophobic thing that we got going on with Earthman. So this could be a really bad thing happening.
It's interesting when you take a look at the rest of the issue with the Ultra Boy thing, where we see Saturn Queen take over Ultra Boy. And it really is all about, what a combination. Broad shoulders, incredible strength, loyal as a puppy, if not as bright, with a thought all mine. This is something where she's taking advantage of his personality traits as a way to gain further control with him, and sneaks him in amongst the team to just cause disruption.
Yeah, destroy the headquarters, take out the Legion, just do as much damage as she can. Just mostly, I took it for her enjoyment. This wasn't about some grandiose plan. I think she was doing this just for giggles.
And I totally agree with you. I think that's the whole issue with her. It's all about what can I do to further disrupt and annoy. I do think we're going to see more from her where we actually see a quote-unquote maybe action against the Legion. I don't know, but maybe it'll be when she gets teamed up with somebody or something like that. I don't know. I find the character very, very interesting. While all this is going on, we've got Saturn Girl who's trying to find out what's going on with her kids. I loved the use of the time bubble here.
Yeah.
She needs intel and info, and the only way to do that is to react fast, and just showing her... I like the fact that we've got Legionnaires who seem like they've been heroes forever, and we're seeing experience. And an experience edge here was she knows she's got to react and react fast. Anytime you're dealing with the time stream and things like that, you've got to jump back through time, get what evidence you can, gather it, and this is somebody who's not letting her, even though she's very emotional, she's experienced enough to know that if I let my emotions take over here, and I don't think critically about the situation, I am going to mess up terribly. She's strong enough and confident enough that she can do this. Normally, if it was a situation like this, I would say she is the worst person to go after her kids because she's so emotionally charged that she couldn't handle the situation. It'll make her sloppy, make her make mistakes that ultimately could cause her to lose her kids altogether. In this particular case, with what she's doing, though, I'm like, what a brilliant analysis. Going back in, her powers are obviously the best suited to reach into their heads real quick and pull out whatever image she can to get further clues to track down their locations. I loved this bit. To me, it totally worked, and it just showed this. It showed to me a stronger strength for a character who, if I were running the team, would never in a million years let her do this. Not that she was asking permission, she just ran off anyway. But I mean, I love that she actually sold me to the point where I would probably send her in this case, now that I know her better. Whereas if you asked me at the beginning of the issue, would I have done that? I would have said no. So this is great writing here because it got me into her head more, and I gained more respect for this character and her ability to handle situations that most couldn't.
I tell you, it's funny you mention this because she was a character that I thought I liked the power levels, and I liked some of the exploration they were doing with her. Just how she was thinking she just needs that private, like in issue 1, how she needs that private spot where they can block out the thoughts of everybody else and whatnot. But she was never a character throughout all my reading that really I latched on too tightly. I thought she was a cool character, a good supporting character, but I never saw her as just this strong legionnaire. And this issue kind of showed me what she's capable of and showed me where this character is and what she can really do with this. And I was like, okay, yeah, she's one of their original Trinity. She's one of their original 3 that came out there. So she's not just a cog in the wheel. She's a strong element on this team, and I thought that was a great way to show.
Yeah, and that's something I really liked about her. We get to see the flip side of it on Winnath, where we see Lightning Lad and Lightning Lass dealing with what's happening. And as this is somebody seeing Lightning Lad dealing with the fact that if I hadn't been here going after Mac, my brother, if I had been there, maybe I could have prevented this. And it is guilt. It's guilt over this point. And I love the sister's response saying that this would have happened either way. And your being there wouldn't have helped. But what can we do now? How can we handle this now? And that was a very real... It's these moments where you take a part of the storyline. You're not seeing him in a big action sequence here. We're seeing him dealing with the aftermath, like epilogue of what happened here, and further, like, a prelude to his involvement in this situation. But these interpersonal moments, they also flesh out characters. And it was something that I really enjoyed, seeing the relationship of these two characters, because we saw a lot of this in Great Darkness Saga and things like that. But for me, this totally felt like, I don't know if it did for you, these are the same characters from Great Darkness Saga. I immediately connected with this because these are things that we saw out of them in that big epic story. And it was something that I really enjoyed here.
Oh yeah, big time, dude. Because here's the thing: I always see Lightning Lad as the Energizer Bunny, just full charge, high energy going into battle, and just kind of like that, the more of the act before he thinks type of deal. So I like seeing him go through that kind of that guilt. That felt very real to me for the character, and I'm like, yeah, this would be how he would look at this, and I completely understand what he's going through because it's an honest emotion to have if you think about it. How he's off somewhere else and his kids are in trouble, his wife's is MIA, and everything is just completely goofy. And your first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the guilt on yourself. And I like seeing just how they're rationing through it. Him and his sister, they're rationing through it. They're going to be working through this, and they're going to go on. And that's, for me, is always a statement of a hero. When you have these personal conflicts, you have these issues. It's the same thing how we were talking with the Saturn girl. How if she lets the emotions get too much in her, she won't be able to do her job. He's now has that same reaction. He now has that same type of responsibility. So this is definitely just a cool look at him.
The riot. I was glad to see the riot didn't go clean. It wasn't just something where the Legionnaires were able to. They were using the best of their abilities to try and minimalize the situation, and it was interesting that these aren't all human characters that the Legionnaire has out there. They have out Legionnaires that look human, but they aren't human, and that's the interesting aspect of this whole thing, because Earthman makes an interesting point when Shadow Lass shows up later on through the whole thing. He's like, last thing we need here is an alien face, and she's right in the sense that she needs to be there to use her powers to kind of get them out of there and let's clear out this situation while there's a chance. She made the right move. Do you think the xenophobia is something that just extends? I'm assuming it extends to all Legionnaires who are not from Earth, or do you think it's only the human-based ones?
I think it's the humanoid-based ones. If they look human, it's not gonna be an initial hatred. It's you go by what visually looks different than you, and that's the basis. You're dealing with a lot of the racists, any of the people who have the phobias against just against the culture or against the being. It's not based solely on logic. It's based on that gut reaction. It's based on that person looks different than me. That person has an antenna. Hey, that's a blue-faced person. That can't be from Earth. Hit them. Well, that may be, who knows, that may be an Earth person. I don't know. And they're going to lash out at the person who looks different than the one who actually looks like them. So I think it was a good comment. It shows a little bit of his hatred, but it was also actually, logically looking at it, it was a good comment. Same reason why, Chameleon Boy didn't go into the battle. He doesn't. Granted, he could go in disguise, but it's still, you need to keep the people who look there just to try to calm the situation down.
They're picketing over the people from Titan being there. Now, if I remember correctly from issue 1, all the people from Titan look human.
Yes.
So they're picketing over people that look human. I think, agreeing with what you're saying to a certain extent, I think once they realize, and it's in their face, that these humanoid people are aliens, they're from other worlds, that's where the rioting starts, the xenophobia. But I think if they visually just look at them and they look humanoid, it's more calming than, shall we say, shadowless. Is that what you're getting at?
Oh, definitely. When you stop and think about it, they know Titan, anyone from Titan is an alien.
Right.
So they're going to have the reaction to it. But if a person from Titan was just walking down the street and they didn't have a big glaring sign or clothing that identified them as being from Titan, I don't think one of these people would be an uprise. But the fact that they know inside these camps are these aliens. So we're going to lash out. We're going to protest against them.
Because Colossal Boy is, I know for sure, not from the planet Earth, because his powers are derived from the planet where he comes from. That's an interesting one. They aren't throwing rocks at him initially. They don't start throwing the rocks until they realize that there were Legionnaires in their midst. Invisible Kid, who is from Earth, and Phantom Girl, who isn't. And that was interesting to me to see that all switched. Legionnaires got severely injured there. And this is actually where I see heroism. The fact that even though they got hurt, I don't see Phantom Girl or Shadowlass hesitating again to get involved in a situation like this. They would do it again. They would do exactly what they did because they're Legionnaires and that's what you do. And that was something that I really found engaging about both characters, because even when their base is attacked, their headquarters is attacked, Shadowlass with an arm and a sling leaps right in. Stay put, I'll investigate. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Phantom Girl's probably in better shape than she is, even though she had a mild concussion.
I don't know. I think I'd go with the arm and the sling over the concussion because of, you think about it, just most of their powers are based on concentration, and when you've got the bats in the belfry kind of ringing freely, it's kind of hard to focus your powers. I think I agree with you that it is very brave and bold that she's just no hesitation. She's going right in, arm in a sling. But I think of the two of them, she's in better shape. And that's actually even why she says, stay put, I'll investigate kind of deal, instead of let's go check this out.
Except the funny part was she had the wherewithal to resolve the situation.
Yeah.
Because she got in the face of Ultra Boy, and if it wasn't for their relationship, I don't think he would have stopped. I don't think any other Legionnaire, there might be a short list, but the fact that the two of them have a relationship together, this is the girl that he was talking about in the beginning, that put him, where he was able to stop himself. That's interesting to see that it actually added to my respect for Ultra Boy, that he is a little bit more than what, Actually, this maybe verifies what Saturn Queen said. He's loyal. And his loyalty to Phantom Girl, to his girlfriend, overrode what she was trying to do with him. So actually, I was going to say that it maybe he is more than what she thought. No, maybe she nailed it on the head, and we just saw how loyal he is in that moment, that he was able to overcome it because of it. It's interesting to see those characters. The best bit to me was this closing bit where we got to see him, I guess, charge up for the first time. He's learning more about the powers. I've got to say, I don't think his learning about being a Green Lantern is going to be a positive, at least initially, because of that being that has been that gave him the ring. I don't think that being is a positive being, little creature.
I don't know what that thing is, and I think that could be an issue. That if you think about just the Guardians back in the day when they initially were creating the Corps, they didn't really understand the strength that the emotional spectrum gives. And this creature is kind of going back to some of the roots. Maybe he's a Guardian 2.0 kind of deal, so who knows if he really understands what makes the strength of the Green Lantern Corps, what makes it, he may be just thinking straight pure power leads to peace, not everything else.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where this storyline's going. For a series where I'm admittedly not as familiar with all of the characters that are in the list, it very quickly has got me very engaged. And I agree with you that a lot of this is due to the fact that it's built off of what I was enjoying when Jeff Johns was working with these characters, and it hasn't thrown that out the window. But I love that Levitz it feels totally like it's a continuation of what he was doing as well. So it feels very familiar on a lot of different levels. That's a hard balance to keep, and it's something that Levitz is really succeeding at. And yet it feels modern and new at the same time, which is that's the other trick of the whole thing is, how do you do this without feeling like you're rehashing something you've done in the past? How do you say something new and keep it fresh? And he's doing that. It's actually a lot of what I'm enjoying about Birds of Prey, for example. Birds of Prey right now as a series feels very new and very fresh to me. We've got a creative team back on it that was on it in the past, but this does not feel like the same series. There's been progression. There's been evolution. Time has passed. It feels familiar in all the right beats in the sense that the creative team understands what's good about a Bird's story. But it doesn't feel like this has been done before. It feels new. It feels exciting. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen next month because I know I'm going to be surprised and shocked and blown away. I'm getting the same feel from this series. It's fresh. It's new. Yet there's something familiar in the right ways. And that is something I think good writers understand how to do that. How to keep that something new and to say something different than what you've said previously. I think it's something that they drive themselves to do. Mm-hmm. To say something new and something different if you're going back to something that you've done previously. It's like, why, if I'm going to go back, if I'm going to take these characters on again, what can I say new about them? And that's, I think, when they accept those assignments and they decide to do that, it's because in their head they've got, oh, look at where we can go now. Look what I can do now that I didn't do before. That's different. And that's something that I think it shows a lot of creative talent and a lot of imagination to be able to take on something that you've done previously and make a new statement with it. And that's cool.
Hope this craft can withstand this powerful force.
Jim, you wanted to mention something about Power Girl number 13. It's with the new creative team.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of why I wanted to just bring it up really quick. I'm not going to go heavy into spoilers. There's some cool stuff that happens here, but it was one of those things where we both were a little bit... We trust Judd Winnick. We both like his writing, so we trust him, but we're like, how is he going to go with it? Where is he going to go with this? Because Power Girl was a really fun read. And it's had just this great exploration of who Power Girl is, and like the artwork, we were both just really loving it. And there's obviously a change in the artwork. Sammy Bashiri, is taking over on the art for this issue, and Sonny Gu. I'm no idea how to pronounce his last name or her last name. I don't know if that's a male or female. It takes over for the coloring, so there's a different look, but it's not one of those jarring, oh my god, everything is completely changed in the universe. It's a different look, but it still has, I don't want to say similarities because it isn't the same style. It's not Amanda Conner anymore, but it does have, it's not like a dramatic change for me. And that was something I was really glad to see, that there is change, but it's not like just a complete 180, switch over to Jim Lee art style kind of deal. And Winnick, there's still some comical elements of it. There's a couple times when I did chuckle when they're showing just some of her Karen's downtime, especially when she's spending some time with Tara. And there's just a quick panel where they're watching The Wire, which is a great HBO show that I absolutely loved. And you can see she's watching because Tara throws out the most famous quote from The Wire, "Omar's coming." And it's just... I chuckled when I read it. Then in the background, you kind of see box set Wire. I'm like, oh, okay, they're watching The Wire. Cool. So it was just some stuff. And then it just continues on with the adventures of Karen. It shows what her dealings, what happened with the whole Max Lord thing. And just kind of like the brightest day flowing through her current story, what's currently going on in her world. And I thought that was just a It was just a really good, solid story. It calmed down a lot of concerns that I had. I'm still not going to say, "Oh my God, it's the greatest thing in the world," because you got to give it time. You got to give it a full story arc. But this opening issue really was a nice opening to saying, "Okay, this is where we're going with this." There is still going to be some of the stuff that we loved about Power Girl before, but it's not going to be the exact same story because it's not the same creative team. This is a different team, but it is still that same universe that was created that we enjoyed.
Well, what I love here is we get to see, and this is the great thing about Judd Winnick writing this and the fact that he is the co-writer of Generation Lost, is the fact that we're getting to see, because I don't remember seeing this to this level, where we've seen this directly affect a hero. Like where we've seen what it looks like from a hero's perspective to have your memory wiped, but then to have it reestablished here. Because he not only wiped the memory, but reestablished her memories so that she would remember that whole situation without remembering...
Without him involved with it.
Right.
And without there ever being a Max Lord. Yeah, it was cool showing just, one, the power levels that Max has. That really just... kind of, we just talked about with Saturn Queen about just how powerful the mind-controlling villain can be. Well, this is just on the umpteenth, oh my God kind of level. If he's doing this with everyone, how is he able to manage that kind of just power and control?
Except you know what I'm thinking here? I can't help but wonder, because of the fact that she is from two worlds, and she's been through two different history sets, so to speak, and the fact that she's become aware of it, is she going to be another one of those that will, on some level, remember Max Lord? Because it looks to me like, especially with the tagline next, "The Lord hath taken away," is he involved in her money vanishing? Because it says Donna's gone and all of your company's money has vanished. We've seen that, did he do something to Donna? Or was it Donna who did it? Donna was the head of finance, but is it Max Lord that did it? And is Kara going to be aware of who Max Lord is? I'm not entirely convinced that she's forgotten him, or that there isn't going to be a part of her that is going to remember him. Because there's that bit where I am Karen Starr, I am Power Girl, and I remember. It's going to be interesting to see if that was Max Lord, or if we're seeing from her, because I'm not totally clear there. Was that all Max Lord driving it, or was her mind fighting what Max Lord was doing? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. With the tagline, "The Lord hath taken away," I immediately assumed it was Max Lord who took the money. And that's part of how he's financing whatever his next plan is taking from here, taking from there kind of deal.
So are we going to, I guess what my question is, are we going to see this series on some level tying in with what's going on in Generation Lost, the way we see Booster Gold, where it's separate but there's themes that are tied in to what's going on? I'm guessing that's what we're seeing here in the status quo right now, that this is going to tie in to some level. Is that the way you're reading this?
I don't know how much of a direct tie, but there's got to be something. There's got to be a connection, and I'd love to see her remember Max Lord and her be one of the people who's able to break out and actually say, "Yeah, I know who Max Lord is. I remember what he did," especially because you think about how she dealt with Booster Gold when Generation Lost was coming out. How she's like, "Dude, you're a joke. Just get out of my way. You're making matters worse," kind of deal. I would like for her to be one of the people to realize, hey, something else is going on here, and recognize that Booster sees it.
Now, the art team on this one I really like, because it's... to follow Amanda Conner is really hard to do. Yeah. And I adore Amanda Conner. There's actually, I know you haven't read Wonder Woman 600 yet, correct? That's what's waiting for you? I won't spoil anything other than that Amanda Conner's story is Wonder Woman and Power Girl, and it feels much like an epilogue to her run on Power Girl. So that won't spoil anything for you other than the fact that that's what the story is. It's the two, it's those two characters. But I loved her artwork on this series. It was a major draw for me. So to have a new art team come on where I like them immediately, I like them because they're not trying to be Amanda Conner, first of all. That would be a huge mistake. But I love the style. It's a good-looking style for this book. I think it is complementary to the character and the direction the character's been going in, while at the same time, like I said, not trying to be an artist that it isn't. It's got a nice blend and a nice mix. It's a good art style for this series, and I really enjoy it so far looking through it. It's a good-looking book. Do you think, I guess here's my question, do you think Donna took the money of her own free will? Or do you think that Donna is a cover for Max Lord taking the money?
I think Max Lord told Donna to take the money and give it to me. So what'll happen is Karen's going to catch up to Donna, and Donna's like, I don't remember anything. And that could be the tie-in, that to the JLI, to Booster and all that. Because was Power Girl associated with the JLI at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. Look at the Remember scene. Mm-hmm. When you take a look at the Remember scene, she's with the JLI there, and look who is in that group. That's Max Lord, isn't it? With the tie-on and all that? There's Fire, Ice, Booster, Captain Atom, and Max Lord. I took it there that she remembers it.
Yeah, that's Max right there.
Right. And this is post the Forget, because she had that whole Forget sequence, and now she's having all these memories, where she's going through her life. So are we seeing her here fight her way through it? Does she know things that, she might not realize what has happened yet, that everybody else has forgotten? Because remember, the rest of the heroes in the JLI weren't aware that everybody forgot until they found out the hard way. So is Karen now going to find out the hard way that Max Lord's screwing with her, and we're going to remember who Max is? I guess that's kind of the way I'm taking it. It's an interesting play on this.
Yeah, I don't know. That's curious, because it shows. Yeah, why would he? If he's making her remember, why would he put that in there unless she's remembering on her own? I completely missed him being there, to be honest, the first time I read this.
And I guess I'm taking the reason why, and I don't know, I'm reading, because they're showing two different timelines for her. Showing her on her world and then showing her on this world. We saw her resolve kind of her past and who she is, and that she is this character from Earth 2. Is that the reason that she was able to overcome it? I don't know. I think these are questions I have more so than statements I'm making. There's speculation in there, but it's, as with any speculation, I see both possibilities. But it is interesting to me because at the end of this is a great way to end this issue, because I am so curious now to see issue 14 because I want to see where this is heading. And that's a good start to a run to get you that excited for, okay, where are we going next? I think this played the right beats and ended off the issue in the right manner with her personal status quo, but also what has happened as her memory came back. Because it says right here, I am Kara Zor-El. I am Karen Starr. I am Power Girl, and I remember. So I guess the question, and the key, that remember lettering, why is that so emphasized? Why is that so huge? Is it because she remembers because Max Lord forced it? Or is it because, I'm taking it as her memories have overtaken what Max Lord was trying to do, and she's in the same boat as the other heroes in the JLI that we've seen that have overcome. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm curious. It's a good.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice to have her added to the JLI team that's going after Max Lord, having Kryptonian there.
It is interesting that we have like two Supergirls, quote unquote, running around, and yet they are so different and so unique. That I really enjoy both characters. There's something special and unique about both of them, which I didn't expect. It's because I don't feel like Karen Starr is in any way a variation on Supergirl, but hanging with Lana Lang and things like that. And I love that about the characters, that yes, they are the archetype of Supergirl, both of them, but they are both so unique and so different, and there's something fundamentally about who they are that at their core they are very, very different characters and very cool. I love Power Girl. She's become a favorite character of mine. Again, another one where, very similar to what I said about Black Canary, I think when they made her the leader of the JSA, that was something that they stepped that character up to the next notch. She's another one that's, to me, if you're not calling her A-list, you got to call her at least a very strong B-list character.
She's one of those characters that should be on the A-list, whether people call her that or not.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point.
Reaching melting point. Not sure we can make it.
Jim, let's kind of wrap this segment up with talking about Green Lantern Corps number 49. It's another one of the Brightest Day issues, which actually, it's funny, the Power Girl issue we just talked about, part of me is thinking there should be a little bit of a Brightest Day banner on that issue, because it's a part of that whole thing. The cover of this one right away, what a sharp-looking cover to see all these different lanterns. And the one thing I always loved about the lanterns, and we've talked about this many times, is that their personality drives their constructs, and we see that on this cover here.
Yeah, I do like seeing just, John, suit up and get ready to rock and roll, and, Kyle armor up, and just Ganthet even just keeping this the straight robe kind of deal, that he doesn't need a construction armor around him because he is Ganthet. He's pretty powerful on his own. So I thought that was just this is just very just boom kind of imagery, and it catches your attention, pulls you in immediately. I thought that was just a nice pop.
Well, it's not even that Ganthet doesn't need it. It's that his background isn't one of before the green energy. He was part of the whole creation of the whole thing because he was one of the Guardians. So his whole view of the energy and the willpower and the way that using constructs and things like that would behave very differently than Kyle and Guy, who would either pull from movies or film or TV or life, and their own life experiences and careers and things like that. Because we've seen John use his career as an architect, to do different kinds of. It's all of those elements playing in for them. This is great because we're finally seeing this Alpha Lanterns thing, and it's amazing how long the Alpha Lanterns have been going on. We're seeing the dangers of the Alpha Lanterns put into our face, and right in the beginning of the issue, right away, Cyborg Superman's involved in all this.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't hold off. They just pulled it right from the beginning, just to let you know, and boom, here's what's going on. And it's one of those things where they told us basically in the first 2 pages what's kind of happening, but it doesn't spoil the story being told. Because I'm still just as curious to seeing where this is going to go. How did this fully develop? I know we're going to get a little bit more background as to how he got involved with the Alpha Lanterns, where the where and the why and the whatnot behind this conglomeration between the Alpha Lanterns and Cyborg Superman. But it was just a boom up front. We know ahead of time, and we're continuing on with the story. I love that, seeing that. It's
interesting here when you see him, and one of the things that I really love about seeing him here is when we saw that one shot from the Sinestro Corps War, one of the things that I really loved about that so much was you got to see how much hatred he has for his existence now, and how he longs for the end of it all. Because he sees himself as this half man, this half machine. He doesn't consider. So when he looks at the Alpha Lanterns, it's almost like he sees kindred spirits, or at least people that he knows how to get into the heads of and root around and manipulate, because they're a lot like him in what has been done and their whole goal, their whole MO. And he knows how to play puppet master with this group. And do you see him as being a puppet master straight through, or that he feels? Do you think he feels some kind of a kindred link to them? How do you see all this?
I'm thinking puppet master, pure and simple. He had the moments where he just wanted to die, and he just, you kind of felt sorry for him. You're like, oh, poor guy, he just wants his suffering to end. I think he's past the point of wanting to suffer. I think he's now back to I want to make other people suffer now. I'm not trying to get myself killed now. I'm trying to destroy everybody else. I see him shifting back into kind of like that supervillain type mindset and mode, and this is all about conquering and taking over and just being the supreme being.
Because see, I see it as he believes he was wronged, and his whole life and this whole existence of being the Cyborg Superman is because he was wronged. In many ways, he's been fundamentally lied to on certain levels by what he believed, and he's playing off of that with them. So it's interesting to see that they're finding a common nature with him. What lies did the Guardians tell you to make you surrender your souls, to become like me? And it's funny that now he's manipulating them in many ways to make more Alpha Lanterns. He's making an Alpha Lantern army. Is that how you're reading this?
Oh, yeah. These are people who weren't Alpha Lanterns who are now becoming Alpha Lanterns, whether they want to or not. This is basically, he's creating his own little workforce. He's reconstructing his own central battery, is what it looks like to me. They're, kind of He's definitely. That's why I say it's no longer the. I don't know if it's kindred. I say not kindred spirit because I see this as a negative ulterior motive. He's using them and manipulating them, not saying, my brothers, we shall be free. Because if that was the case, he wouldn't be making more Alpha Lanterns. He would just be freeing the existing Alpha Lanterns.
I guess what I'm saying here is, and I totally agree with you to a certain extent on that. I guess what I'm saying is I could see him as being a kindred spirit and still doing those things. I don't know. I'm curious to see where this is going to go because he can feel that because in many ways he could feel that he's justified in bringing them to them, that he's showing them a new way, in what he's doing. The Boudica John Stewart bits, especially early on, I got to compliment the writing of Tony Bedard here because he swerved me. I thought John was really getting through to her.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Completely just hook, line, and sinker. It was a great usage of the swerve kind of deal, and just even the way she was playing it. Because you look at how the Alpha Lanterns are, they do think more machine. So she's like, hey, I brought you in because I need you to sneak on. I need your help to, I can't just go in straight guns a-blazing. I need your help on this. And so she's taking his advice, and they sneak in on the debris and all that stuff. And it was just, I was like, man, this is just a cool story. And I think John can do it. Maybe John can free her, and maybe that could be. I'm like, no.
But I love that because we got to learn, again, it was kind of a nice little refresher on who she is, her whole MO, who she was. What happened to your passion? My passion has been repurposed. And I don't think that's a lie. I think that's true. Her passion has been repurposed, but we're seeing here that her passion's been repurposed to that of what Cyborg Superman's doing. Mm-hmm. To the life of an Alpha Lantern, which I guess in this point is the loyalty to that whole thing. They are a creepy, creepy bunch. They remind me a lot of when the Borg was first introduced on Star Trek. I remember in Cybermen and Doctor Who and things like that, these characters, when they were introduced in such a way, they creeped me out. I was just kind of like, ugh. Because it's terrifying to anything where your humanity is altered and you're not willing or you're manipulated or something like that. And I always took the Alpha Lanterns as being something where the Guardians manipulated Lanterns into becoming Alpha Lanterns. I actually think there's certain truth to what Cyborg Superman is saying, and I think that's why it's working. I think that these creatures, these Alpha Lanterns, were created in a way that isn't above board. I've always thought that about the characters. I always thought that there would be something that was going to come of it because of that this was not going to play well. And I actually love the creep factor of them because it creeps me out the way I remember when Brainiac was written by Jeff Johns and we got that whole series. That was creepy. Alpha Lanterns to me are again, some of the truly creepy characters in the DC universe because of the way that they came about being created. And they look less than alive. Not in a way like a Cyborg does. Like Cyborg is a character that I think is nothing but cool. There's nothing creepy to me about Cyborg. I love that he's overcome all that. The Alpha Lanterns are just the opposite, where they've been kind of manipulated into this, and they've stayed nothing but creepy. They haven't gotten out of it. And we see it more so in this. Now Stel, are you taking that Stel and this Heroic Knot from Sector... from Sector 885, that they're going to become Alpha Lanterns? Is that what's happening
Eventually.
here?
Well, I'm thinking maybe with Steel, because he's a machinery, maybe they couldn't. He's already too much of a machine that they couldn't make him an Alpha Lantern.
Well, it's Stel, right? Because there's only one E?
Yeah, Stel. Stella!
But this is the character that is the replacement for Kilowog. Might be a very temporary replacement for Kilowog.
They're on his home planet.
Right.
That's why he wanted to investigate.
So I'm going to be very curious.
I guess she's the current for this sector, maybe, or something like that is how it is.
Yeah. I don't understand. This whole we answer to a higher power bit, though, and really this whole idea that do not fight me, John Stewart. You have the ability to enforce great justice. You will join our ranks. This manipulation here to force people to become Alpha Lanterns. I mean, whoa. It's just that whole thing, and the sheer numbers for Jon Stewart. This is one of the more horrifying moments I've seen a little bit in comics because of where it goes throughout the issue.
Well, you think about it. If Jon Stewart's going up against a bunch of Green Lanterns, that's one thing. Jon can throw down. He knows how to ring sling, and you know what? He's going to make it a fight. These Alpha Lanterns have the ability to grain a Green Lantern ring, so it's not like he even has a fair shot. And I think that's just the fact that we have these overwhelming odds coming down on him and the power that they wield to completely shut off your ring kind of really gives them a slight advantage. But it's like a 1-2 double punch. It's like someone throws a rock at you, so you drop a nuclear bomb on them. It's wow.
This whole Kyle Rayner and the stuff that's going on with Jade. And I mean, this is one of those things where, and Sornik, the relationship with Kyle and Sornik has been so interesting to me. I've enjoyed following. I enjoyed following Kyle and Jade and Kyle and Donna. His relationships have been very interesting. He's got a lot of that Dick Grayson factor about him, where his interpersonal relationships are quite interesting. I'm rooting for Sornik, but I love the reality of all this. Jade is back from the dead, and that's something where that's going to play on your emotions. It's going to make emotions very confusing. And, is he feeling what he's feeling because of excitement with her being back from the dead, and that is confusing his feelings because of past feelings? Or is it that he's feeling something more and that was unfinished business? There's something that's still there. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you think that, it's ultimately that Sornik is who he's with and that is really where his heart lies? Or do you think that there is still some of Jade in there?
I'm leaning towards Sornik because I didn't read any Jade stuff. I don't think I've read any of the Jade stuff yet. I'm going to probably find it and read it because it is kind of fascinating, kind of cool. But I like seeing this relationship. I like seeing it grow. I like seeing where it's going, and just kind of I'm rooting for it because she's a cool character. She's an interesting person that over recharge and the GLC and just everything that she's been through. I'm getting into her character, and I'm like, you know what? One, I want to see her around. I still want to see her involved in this stuff, and I kind of like to see some positive stuff happen to her. Though I did really just like, oh, dude, what are you doing when you're calling out another woman's name and you got one lady laying next to you? That's really not a good deal there. And, there's going to be some rocky roads ahead of them.
One of the strengths that has always been present in Green Lantern Corps has been the fact that it's introduced new characters while using established characters, and a lot of these new characters that have been introduced haven't taken a back seat. They've been main players. Sornik is a great example of this. This is a character who's a main player in this title. She's just as important to me as Kyle Rayner now. Whether their relationship sticks or not, she is a character who I want to continue following in Green Lantern Corps, and she's become just as interesting a lantern to me because of that. This is a great example of, a lot of times they say it's hard to introduce new characters and to get people on board. This is a good way to do it because this title has been like a template for how you really establish and developed very interesting new characters that add something to the older characters as well. Because I love following the old characters, my old favorites and things like that. But when you've got strong characters like Sornik, they add something and make something interesting about those characters. We're saying the same thing about Damian Wayne over in Batman and Robin. There's a character who, over time, we wanted to shoot him out of a cannon early on. Now we love the character, and I would fight. I would pull out a sword and fight Ra's al Ghul to defend him. So I'd lose, but I mean, there's interesting things about these characters and the way that they've been developed, and DC does have some interesting new characters that have been very well established. So, not all of them have stuck. But there's been some great ones that have. These Sornik, Damian Wayne, these are great examples of characters who are new and interesting and fun to follow. Black Alice is another character who I love. Her. That
I wish we could see more of her.
Yeah,
we're getting good. We got some good taste of her in Secret Six, but I don't think she's going to be too long on that series.
No, I think we're going to see her all. Well, I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
No, it won't. It's not as big as the way I'm saying it, but I was going to mention something else that I'll let you wait till you get home. But
okay.
This to me is just a fantastic example of a series that has been really good. Remember our two Ran and Thanagarians actually in this particular series are two lanterns who have happened to enjoy following their relationship as well. So Kyle suits up, and then we get to see this whole thing going on in Cord. And this is a great example. This is where it ties directly into Brightest Day, where we get to see the white net. And I don't know who this guy is on Cord. Like, you know,
Okay, thank you. Because I didn't know either, and I was hoping you maybe would know, or he looks like a bigwig maybe among the people, but
I don't know who this character is. Because he's definitely, he is a bigwig. And I get the impression with the way that this character's coming in, that this is a major weaponer of Cord. Like, this is somebody who's had, you know, like a previous role, or he's somehow important. I don't know.
yeah. The other thing I noticed is his uniform isn't as tattered as everybody else's. Everybody else has some battle damage, but his doesn't look like it does too much.
Well, and actually, when you take a look at it, he is definitely much of a more of a leader. Because if you take a look, it actually has accessories on it that the other ones don't have as well. Mm-hmm. I've got to admit, my strength as far as Cord is not my knowledge of Cord. I've seen it in plenty of stories, but as far as understanding the different roles of people on Cord, this is an area where I'm weak. And this is definitely a character visually when you look at him. You know, is he the weaponer of Cord? He's obviously their leader. I mean, you can look at him because it actually like a sash almost. His tunic is down farther than the other ones. You know,
he's got a little bit of bling on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to him. I don't know if he is the. I kind of remember there being a weaponer. Like, there's one who was like the main leader on there, and what is he going to do with this energy? Because they're all about. Step aside. My need for energy is greater than yours. The other question is he actually accordion, or is he someone posing as one? Because now step away. My need for energy is greater than yours. Why would that be? What is his deal? So I'm curious. And that's great because, to me, that's the strength of writing as well, where Tony Bedard gave us enough information there that I'm curious enough about this character who I'm not familiar with, other than that I know the nature of Cord and that, you know, they create these amazing weapons. We've seen this happen in the Green Lantern stories, you know, straight through Sinestro Corps War and things like that, you know, straight on through the present day. We've seen Cord play into the Green Lantern universe. This character is interesting enough to me. I guarantee you we've probably seen him before. We just neither of us remember. Now we get to see Kyle going on with Ganthet and our friend Soranik, and they're actually heading out to help out their teammates. And this is interesting.
To help out John Stewart.
Yeah. And they come across a lantern not really realizing that this lantern's been overtaken and was like a booby trap for them. Because it's the heroic, the one that we actually, there's a dumb part. I was asking before, do I see her becoming, we actually do see her become an Alpha Lantern right here. And she was the trap.
And this is a great trap, because if you think about just the mindset of the cop or the mindset of the soldier, when you got a man down, when you got a soldier down, you're going to go and, okay, let's get, take care of what's going on, get your buddy out of the battle, we'll never leave a man behind kind of mindset. So she's injured, and, Sarek's flying right in saying, hey, let me look, I'm a doctor. And she's like, yeah, get closer. As she starts draining power. I thought that was just a beautiful, just play on the minds of, how they think, how they operate. They're initially going to go in to save their buddy, to pull their friend out of the fire. And, but, fortunately they're able to pull away and get some distance between them. And that was just it's funny because your best defense against the, against these Alpha Lanterns right now is run away, because their main weapon stops you cold.
One of the things that I really liked about this was Cyborg Superman knew who was coming, which which shows the powers of the Alpha Lanterns and things like that. They were able to identify, through the links of the rings and stuff like that, who was coming. He knew Ganthet was with them and was specifically targeting to get a hold of a Guardian, wondering what the overall goal and plan here is and why a Guardian was needed. So it's interesting. And I love that Kyle does refer to this, that this all reminds him of a horror movie. With the whole send more cops things, knowing that that's usually a trap to just kill more people.
Yeah.
John Stewart, and just how beaten and devastated that he was there. And then seeing him with that surgery. Are we going to see John turned into a Alpha Lantern, or is he going to be saved in time?
I don't know how he can be saved in time, to be honest. Well, look, that's kind of makes you really just... They're in the process of cutting him open. Now, I'd like to think that John is strong enough of a person that after they make him an Alpha Lantern, he's able to fight it. But unless Kyle, Ganthet, and Sornak have a really good idea and they act really quickly, we're going to see Alpha Lantern John Stewart.
Yeah, which is... I don't know. I'm kind of torn both ways because, I'm thinking back to that whole Borg storyline with Locutus and how cool that was. To see John Stewart, I think he is the type of character that'd be interesting to follow overcoming this. I don't know how this is going to play out. I could see it going very much either way, where they get to him in time, or at least with what they're doing. He stops what he's doing to help her try to track down Ganthet. I don't know. I loved the reveal of him that we didn't actually physically see Cyborg Superman until the end. I mean, 100% like this.
Right.
But we saw the clues and there were a lot more than clues. It was right in your face verification that's who we're dealing with. But I loved that kind of build to the reveal that we all knew was going on. It was really a visual, cool way to kind of bring us into the whole story. I loved every bit of this. This is really a good issue and a good series. This still continues to be one of those books where I teeter-totter between Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. Which one's my favorite? Because of this type of storytelling. I would be hard-pressed to tell you which one is still my favorite of the two books. And I think, I think the whole Green Lantern thing now is just one big story that I'm enjoying following. And I don't even bother trying to pick a favorite out of those two books. I would be hard-pressed to decide which one of the two I could let go if I had to let go one Green Lantern book.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm so glad that Green Lantern is continually just to fire and fire and fire with these great stories. When Sinestro Corps War hit, we're all saying, okay, did they just peak? Did they just, no, it continues on. Blackest Night, oh, Brightest Day. And every time the story keeps building and it keeps coming out and you keep getting these great adventures inside the pages of the monthly title that I'm so happy that it's growing and getting stronger.
Yeah, it's just an amazing series. And it's funny, we're getting a third Green Lantern book, and it's going to be taking that story in a different direction. Do you feel that a third book is a good move?
Yes. Definitely, just seeing what they're doing right here with Green Lantern Corps and seeing what they're doing with Green Lantern, how they're continuing on those characters, those adventures. I'm like, you know what? We do need a third book for those other characters that aren't getting used. That title is a great way to use those characters, continue using what we're enjoying, and we can't have everybody in Green Lantern Corps. We can't have everybody in Green Lantern. We actually do physically need a third title just to continue with these great characters and these stories. I'm really excited and very happy for it.
Yeah, same with me. I echo that completely. Brightest Day as a whole, Jim. I know you haven't read the most recent issue of Brightest Day, but how have you been enjoying this? It's not just a theme that's restricted to the Brightest Day title in Green Lantern. We've seen it in books like The Flash, Birds of Prey. A lot of these series that have, and Green Arrow, actually. How do you feel about Brightest Day and how it's been touching the DC Universe? Because Green Arrow, the force that Green Arrow is operating in, is one that spun out of the whole Blackest Night / Brightest Day. So how do you feel about this whole Brightest Day theme so far? Are you enjoying it? Do you like the interlinked thematic story?
Well, it's funny. If you recall back when we were talking about Blackest Night, I was saying I really hope there's a solid ending, and boom, we go on. And we kind of got that, but we didn't really get that there was just this overall universal impact that's being felt, and it's coming out in Brightest Day. And it's not just the month, the weekly series going on. It's in these individual titles, and I'm really liking how it is affecting the whole universe. How this was this major, overwhelmingly just huge universal event, and we're seeing it still, the aftermath. There's still something happening after. You can't just end this epic event and then say, okay, let's move on. Here's this one series that helps explain things. No, it's affected the universe before. It's going to affect the universe afterwards. because I like seeing that brightest day tagline on there. To be honest, it doesn't need to have the brightest day tagline on there, but I do like seeing that. I do like where they're going with this, how these characters who were affected by Blackest Night, who should be affected by Brightest Day, are actually affected. So, it makes sense that these characters, have this connection.
Now, just so I've got you right, are you saying that you felt that Blackest Night didn't have a good firm ending? Or, because the way you said that, it's made it sound like you're saying that. I'm not disputing you, I'm just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
No, I said, okay, when it was going on, I said I wanted to make sure Blackest Night had a solid boom ending. Mm-hmm. And it did have that solid boom ending, but it didn't really just end. It's oh God.
No. Now I get it.
It didn't just end.
No. Now I get it. Okay, because when you originally said this, you said that I liked that Blackest Night didn't have an ending, and that's what totally threw me. Now I totally get it. So what you're saying is you liked the ending of Blackest Night, but you liked that it didn't just end there. That there's echoes of it. That there's an impact to the story.
Exactly.
It wasn't just like we're done and nothing happened because of it. The story mattered to the universe. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It wasn't just like afterwards there's just this one story that explains the connection. Okay, continue on with your story. There's still the ripple effect. There's still just, you had this massive event, so there's going to be backlash. There's going to be stuff that's going to have continuations of it. Now, some of the titles like JSA and JSA All-Stars, their connection had in the one issue where we saw what happened with Damage. We saw, and all that kind of stuff going on. So that was a boom, but it's not going to continue on and on and on.
Come home and do some reading.
Okay. Apparently there is more.
Yeah. What was the last issue? What happened in the last issue of Justice Society of America that you read? Have you seen the resolution of what happened with Mr. Terrific?
No, I read I read that final battle that they had in the alternate future kind of deal, and they send the message back, and we're left with the cliffhanger that did he get the message, did he not get the message?
Okay. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say anything else to you right now out of respect, other than I didn't know if you had read that, if that issue came out before you left, or so you've got an issue of Justice Society and then Justice League to read when you get back, and
cool.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So this has been thematic. I'm glad that this isn't an event per se, because I love, like we talked about Power Girl before. Whether it has the Brightest Day banner or not, that was obviously a series that's affected by Brightest Day and the events that are going on. But yet, I felt that it was a great contained Power Girl issue that you don't have to be reading Generation Lost, for example, to understand it. It gave you everything you need, which I think is good writing. And it's a great example of Winnick's realizing that some people are Power Girl readers and they aren't reading this mini. So I'm going to give them what they need, but then there's something strong there for the people that are reading the mini and reading Booster Gold, for example, that this all feels like one big connected happening. But you don't have to be reading each of the other things in order to understand the story. That, to me, is respect for your readership, when, as a writer, you give the people everything they need to follow your book. You don't have to give them all the details of what Max Lord's doing, just what's needed to understand what's going on for Power Girl. Good writing. That's a great example of that. So I think that's something that's a strength of the Brightest Day event. Birds of Prey is a great example of that. Actually, I'll go out on a limb and say, things like Green Arrow. You don't have to be reading Brightest Day to appreciate Green Arrow, Flash, Green Lantern even. They're giving you everything you need in these great books, and if you happen to be reading it, you're just getting something that feels all thematically interconnected for those of us that are reading all of it. So I think there's a little something for everybody. So I'd actually be curious from any of our listeners, if you want to call into the show or email us, if you're only reading certain Brightest Day titles, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're missing something, or do you feel like you're getting complete stories? Because I'm obviously making an assumption, because you and I are both in the same boat. We're reading all these titles, but I don't feel like I have to grab another book to understand the happenings of a book. Like, I've never felt like I've had to reread something in the main Brightest Day title to understand Power Girl. Or I didn't reread Generation Lost to understand Power Girl. So I think that to me is a pretty good indicator that it's good writing where I didn't have to go, oh, wait a minute, what just happened in this book to understand what happened in this one, if that makes any sense. And I think that's a strength of a good, well put together comic event. And I think that we've said it before on the show, I want to see this continue to be the trend because I think it leads to better storytelling where the writers of those individual series have the freedom to echo the event but tell their own good stories within the framework of what fits for the book and the title that they're working on. And I think that's why we're so happy about all these series that have this Brightest Day banner on them. It's because they stand on their own as good stories, however you're reading them.
Amen. Amen.
Come on, Skreel. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
As I mentioned in the beginning, we're supported by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Also want to remember that everybody can check us out each week on Get Your Geek on Radio. GetYourGeekOnRadio.com, a radio station committed to making geek chic. It's an online internet radio station where you can check out our episodes. It's really cool, and we're proud to be supported by them. And also, check out ComicCollectorLive.com. ComicCollectorLive.com, your comic book management source. For listener voicemails, remember it's Dr. Norge on Skype or 1-440-388-4434. Listener voicemails will for sure be on our next episode. Jim, our next episode, I'm actually going to be joined by a listener guest or guests, friend of the shows that we're going to be doing a little bit of recording with to give you a little wiggle room for when you get back from your vacation. But this is cool. We actually worked out a recording from Italy. This is very cool.
And as I said, I would speak some Italian for you, but I really only know, was it dove dos bagno? Where's the bathroom?
And you knew that really well.
I usually just say bagno, with that kind of look, help, and they'll point, okay, grazie.
So I take it that's
grazie.
Bathroom?
Yeah, I've learned excuse, when I bump into somebody, excuse. You hold up the international sign for excuse me as you hold up the two hands. Hey, sorry about that. But I'll tell you a funny story about that later.
Yeah, we're actually going to have a few little of your Italy, very similar to your Vegas stories. We're going to have a few Italy stories that we're going to be airing on some episodes in our our reel at the end, our raging reel at the end. We'll just kind of close out.
I'll tell you guys about my international incident. And give you a little teaser. I have a couple rants about it. I got some wonderful stuff to say about Italy, but I got some rants about Italy that I have to say, involving water, involving air conditioning, and involving bathrooms.
Wow, things to look forward to. All right. Well, we will see everyone in, I'm hoping less than a week with that next episode, and then you'll be back, so that'll be fun. So we will see everyone soon.
Bye.